Hey guys, it's Mike here, and welcome to another video. We are going to be bringing you today about Dragon Ball Super, and more specifically, the 10 things we didn't like about the Future Trunks arc of Dragon Ball Super. And this is another part of a video in which we were discussing the 10 things we did like about Dragon Ball Super over on my guest channel, which you can check out in the description and after this video is over. And first off, let me introduce my guest today, and his name is...
All right, it's D from Geekdom 101, and yes, we're talking about the 10 things that we did not like, and over on my channel there's the 10 things that we did like, as you stated. So both sides of the spectrum here when it comes to this Future Trunks arc.
So let's start off with your number one, or your first thing you would like to discuss on this list that you didn't like, and that will be...
My number 5, you mean? Yes, man, you're fucking up right now, but that's okay. My number 5 of the 10 things we did not like about this arc is Zamasu's sudden turn to the dark side. I like the concept of a Kaioshin, of a god slowly kind of becoming evil and regressing and kind of becoming, you know, a villain. But I felt that, and we're going to talk more about this later on when we get to pacing, but I felt that this was paced poorly. I felt that Zamasu's turn happened way too suddenly. It was like a 2-episode turn. And I thought that it should have been built up a little bit more, maybe even through flashbacks or through different kind of techniques of, you know, making it seem like this guy's had a beef for a while. It just seems like he goes from meeting Goku, being an apprentice Kaioshin, he meets Goku once, sees him hanging out with Beerus, and all of a sudden, I want to kill every mortal. It wasn't even about killing Goku, it was about killing every mortal. And I felt like it was just too sudden, man. I didn't like that too much. Could have been done better.
I agree. It was a cool concept, just as Zamasu has been a really cool concept thus far. However, I would definitely have to say that, you know, maybe it could have been done a little bit better, but that's something we're definitely going to be talking about throughout this video. Now, my number 5 that I want to discuss on this list would have to be something that still kind of annoys me to this day. A lot of fans have made excuses for it, I believe, but it is Goku never kissing his wife. And it's essentially like, I just find it really hard to believe that throughout their entire relationship, I know we haven't seen it on screen, and Toriyama is like, the way he writes is, you know, not usually going towards romance, but, you know, she kissed him on the cheek at the end of Dragon Ball, and they have obviously been together since they've conceived 2 children. So you mean to tell me that Chi-Chi never once kissed this guy on the lips, and he never once has kissed his own wife? I just find it unbelievable. And kind of to quote Dogma, you know, you mean to tell me that a married couple never kissed? You know, that's just plain gullibility.
People are going to be saying, oh, well, they kissed in the Cell Saga. No, that was a dub change where they added the kissing noise. I did a video about it on my channel. In the original version, yes, they never kissed. And here's the thing about that. Some people thought it was a Toei exclusive thing, but no, it's also in the Toyotaro manga, so that appears to be right from Toriyama. So what can you do?
Yeah, exactly. So what is your next thing on this list?
My number 4 is too many retcons. Now, I've talked about in the past how retcons are nothing new to anything, comic books, fiction, it's always there, and Dragon Ball has tons of retcons. Dragon Ball Super, just the creation of Dragon Ball Super itself is a retcon. You know, not just from the movies, but also from the fact that we're supposed to be in a time of peace, and it's been anything but peaceful, you know, so it's, you know, it's always been there, but I felt this arc did a few too many retcons. The Potara one, of course, being the biggest one that was kind of buggy. Also, it's kind of strange that you have one Kaioshin rebel, and it's kind of hard to believe that we've never had that situation happen before. Plus, another retcon that bugged me was the whole concept of time travel being changed about 3 different times, which I want to get more to later on. You know, I don't understand how it's possible that they used Cell's time machine to go to Trunks' future. Like, you can recalibrate the time machine now, which again, that's a retcon. Also, the biggest retcon of the arc is Trunks' hair, which I don't even want to talk about. So it was just too many unnecessary. Hear me out. It's not about too many retcons, it's too many unnecessary retcons, I felt.
There's so many retcons in this arc, especially like towards the end of the arc itself. Like Vegito is definitely one of the big ones too, but I'm just so tired of talking about Trunks' blue hair at this point that I guess they think is fine that it's always been that way, despite the fact that little kid Trunks still has like purple hair, but whatever, let's pretend that doesn't exist. But that also ties into kind of another thing, you know, with little to no explanation, season, and that is the introduction of transformations with little to no explanations for how they work. And essentially, like, Trunks gets a new transformation in this arc, and they never explain how powerful it makes him, how, much stronger of a boost it is, why he's able to suddenly surpass Goku and Vegeta and fight off Black and Zamasu, how it works, does he have God Ki and normal Ki at the same time, what is it even called? They never tell us, and that is such an annoying thing for me. And then we have the Super Saiyan Rose, which also kind of doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense. Like, why doesn't he just go into normal Super Saiyan forms up until that point? Why is he just in base form?
It's like because he took over his body, he can control the hair color? Is that what we're supposed to believe?
I guess so. I mean, why did he even take over Goku's body in the first place when it seems like his power didn't even change at all after that point? Like, wouldn't it have made him weaker if Goku's base is weaker than his full power? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that wasn't really explained, and that's one of the things that certainly annoyed me about this arc.
Definitely, and it's something that we're probably going to get an explanation soon, but I don't want to have to wait for a guidebook. So my number 3, talking about confusing, my number 3 is the confusing time travel shit. All right, we've talked about this many, many times, and it seems like it changes every 3 or 4 episodes in this arc. They flip what time travel is supposed to be and how it works. So I literally have on my channel, I think 7 to 8 videos talking about different aspects of time travel when it comes to this arc. Not just the original lore, but also all the changes they made in this arc and how Beerus erased this timeline, but he really didn't erase it. And then Zamasu erased like the Omniverse, but not really, because you can go into it before he did that. But then it's a different timeline because Beerus is going to kill this. It was a mess. And I tried my absolute best on several videos to have it make sense, and it still doesn't make sense. When you're doing shit with time travel, you really have to have your P's and Q's. Your I's have to be dotted and your T's have to be crossed, because otherwise things get confusing and it makes little sense, and you can tell that this didn't make much sense. It really didn't. I did the best I could, but there's still a lot of holes in this.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's just, even for people like us who have seen all these different time travel movies and have really researched the subject, it's still incredibly confusing. A lot of it really just doesn't make a lot of sense, or just seems completely unnecessary for them to introduce all these concepts that just don't work together, and then they try and make them work together and they don't. I don't know, but that really does tie into my next one as well, which is concepts being wasted. Because let's think about it. Kind of like in the Buu saga, they introduced a number of interesting concepts to this arc, but in the end, did they really matter? Like, they brought back fusion, but Vegito didn't accomplish anything. Like, Trunks was the one who ended up, essentially beating, that form of Zamasu. They introduced these time rings, which, kind of create a lot of things, but at the same time, like, I feel like they could have been used to such a greater potential. And that's kind of this arc in general when it comes to the concepts. There's so much potential that was on display in this arc that they really could have gone for. They really could have risen to the absolute apex of, and we didn't really get that, and it kind of meandered a little bit. But, that's certainly some other things we're going to be talking about to go on with this.
Absolutely. My number 2 is one that's been a problem with the overall Dragon Ball Super anime, and that's bad pacing. I want to focus just on this arc, not anything else, but the pacing has been really, really sloppy. The arc started out pretty well paced, and then it just got really, really slow and came to a halt with the Trunks stuff. Like, I know I was kind of waiting to see the story kind of progress, but it really didn't bother me, because they're doing this whole thing where Trunks is meeting like Android 18 and Gohan. That's all cool. Like, I had no problem with it. But then when you go back to the future, it was breakneck pacing. Like, one episode of fights that we have to retreat. Then they fight again, we have to retreat. And then at the end, the last 2 episodes, Dragon Ball Super 66, 67, was some of the most poorly rushed and paced stuff I've ever seen. Like, they literally crammed what would have been 7 episodes of Kai and 13 or 14 episodes of Z. They literally crammed it into 2 episodes. We have Vegito, Trunks ass pulling the freaking sword, the Genki Dama stuff. We have Zeno destroying the universe, and oh no, it's okay. We can go back to this universe. No, it's all right. And then you have the involvement of Zamasu's power so high it can go through time. Like, there was just so much like crammed into these episodes, and I felt like if they had spaced it out a little bit, people wouldn't be so, jolted with these episodes. It was just the pacing in Super is very inconsistent. It's too slow or too fast, and it's something that needs to be fixed as soon as possible. It really does.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you just said. One of the biggest problems for me throughout this arc was the fact that it seemed like every single time, like, all this interesting stuff would go down in the next episode, either the next episode would just be such a slow-paced episode for no reason, or it would just be, like, stuff getting in the way. The whole Pilaf subplot in this arc really seemed like it constantly got in the way. Like, we had a whole episode before Trunks woke up. It seemed like one of the big things that was happening was that Toei was taking, like, bullet points and putting them at the end of all these episodes so that they could just pad out the episodes the entire time, and then finally, oh wait, Trunks woke up at the end of this episode. Oh wait, Zamasu fused at the end of this episode, but instead of actually executing them in a way to where you allocate the time correctly to each of these big events, it seems like all the slow, pointless stuff took up the most time, and then we get to, like, all the big climactic elements, and it's like, let's rush through this shit as quickly as possible. I don't know if it's money reasons, I don't know what it necessarily is.
I have no idea.
But just, it really is one of the things that bothered me the most. So the next thing I really did not like, and one of the big things you guys knew I was going to talk about on this list, has to be kind of something you just hinted at, D, and that is horrible power scaling and terrible power scaling inconsistencies, because, like, this entire arc was just full of them to the point to where my head almost felt like it was going to explode in a number of these episodes. So, like, for some reason, Zamasu Fuse can punch Goku and Vegeta in their base form. They don't explode. Trunks can somehow take and, like, block all these attacks from, like, these characters who are stronger than Super Saiyan Blues when he's a Super Saiyan 2. Vegito and like, Fuse Zamasu don't seem to be that much above the normal forms of these characters, and even, like, Trunks seems like he can overpower all of them. Now, a lot of it might just be because of how poorly executed a lot of it is and how little explanations we got, but the fact of the matter is, like, they really need to work on this in subsequent arcs, because I like to know how powerful characters are, because when it comes to drama and tension, if a character is necessarily stronger than another one, or much stronger in this regard to another character, you know how much more powerful and how much more of an obstacle they become. And when you just throw all of that to the wayside and make it ambiguous, it ruins the arc for me in a lot of ways, because how am I supposed to feel invested and have all this tension for what's going on when suddenly a Super Saiyan 2 can fight gods and even surpass them in an instant?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It takes away from the hero's quest. It takes away, and that goes to my number one, which is a lack of explanation of anything, or of many things. That is my number one. But to counter your point, or to agree with your point and add mine, when you have the hero's quest, they're fighting this villain that cannot be beat, and we don't see them actually train. We see very little of it. We don't see them actually achieve the forms and kind of go through the struggle of beating this guy. Trunks just magically has a new form. Goku Black magically has a new form. And that's how it was the whole arc. Now, you mentioned that earlier about your different transformations. I'm going to go a step further. There's a lot of shit in this arc that was just not explained. Not just the time travel stuff, but also the fact that, the ending with the Omni King. How can there be, like, another Omni King in the future? There's no omnipotent being that governs all timelines. Like, okay, I can get by that one, but you add into the fact that, like, again, the Cell Time Machine, I mentioned that. How should that have taken into Trunks' future? That makes no sense. The entire time loop is messed up. The power scale's messed up. Zamasu becoming, like, half mutant was explained, but it wasn't explained thoroughly enough. It's like when I'm watching Dragon Ball Super now, shit just happens with no consequences, and that's one thing that can kill the freaking show. And we saw Goku do a Kaioken in this arc when we were told with 3 episodes in the previous arc that Goku might never be able to do that move again because it's so risky to his life, and he does it again in this arc like nothing, and it's really a nightmare. We also don't even know what the deal is with Mai. Like, we never got an anime explanation of how Mai is the age that she is in the future. We got that manga from Toyotaro that came up with the Dragon Ball Heroes promotional thing, but we never got it in the anime. So the fact that we have to also, Oh, another one is the Majin Buu version of the events with Trunks and the Z-Sword. Like, there's so many things that Toyotaro had to expound upon in the manga that wasn't explained in the anime, but the problem is he should not have to do that. All the information should be just in the anime, and instead we have to go to other sources to get all the information, and to me that's stupid. Like, people should just be able to watch the anime episode by episode and figure out what's going on, but shit just gets ass pulled out of nowhere. People just transform out of nowhere. Trunks learns all these techniques. He is the Gary Stu of Dragon Ball now. He knows how to do. I get him learning his dad's techniques because he trained with his dad, the Gallic Gun and the Final Flash. I get all that. He learned the Mafuba in one shot. Again, that was a waste of a plot arc right there. That was a horrible, pointless, completely pointless. He learned the freaking Genki Dama, somehow like regenerated a sword, and somehow that was enough to cut this guy in half. Just the lack of explaining shit. Dragon Ball has always kind of had this, but not to this degree ever, to where now it takes away from my suspension of disbelief. And that's why it's my number one, because even though I can enjoy the good stuff of Dragon Ball Super, it also annoys the piss out of me when they don't explain shit.
I completely agree with everything you just said. I feel like when it comes to adaptations, one of the most important things is that it's self-contained and you don't have to go and look at the original source material to know everything that's going on. You don't have to look at extra materials to see, oh, this is what was happening in the background. This is what caused this to transpire. You just read that one adaptation or you just watch it and immediately you know everything you need to know. And that is one of the biggest overall problems with Dragon Ball Super, and especially this arc thus far, that they do not do an adequate enough job of explaining everything, and that's why everything is in such disarray. So 100% completely agree with you on your last point. And my last point, though, I would have to say, to wrap it all up, and it makes sense to wrap it all up, is the ending. I did not like the ending of this arc at all.
You didn't like the Gohan and Trunks and their emotional moment that everybody went crazy over?
At least Gohan was in an episode, but that's about it. Like, I didn't like anything. I didn't like Zeno showing up with the Zeno button and defeating this character that they should have realistically just beaten with a Mafuba. That's the whole reason they should have built up that concept, which again ties into concepts being wasted. You know, instead Zeno shows up, he blows up an entire timeline and essentially multiverse, and everyone Trunks has already known is dead, not only in the universe, but seemingly in the afterlife as well. So they don't even get their peaceful, restful eternities or whatever it happens to be in the Dragon Ball universe. They're all just ceasing to exist. And Trunks is leaving crying and everything. It seems like it's a horrible, like, tragic ending, but then they play it up for fun and laughs.
Yeah.
Like Zeno meets the other Zeno.
Yes.
You know, the tone is completely wrong, and it just really bothers me that that's how this arc ended. And like even Hail Zeon, to reference one of his videos, even said, how do you fuck up an epilogue? Well, I guess Dragon Ball Super showed us how you fuck up an epilogue.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. The issue was the tone. Like, if they wanted to give us a bittersweet ending, that's what they gave us. It was a dark ending. Trunks' entire timeline is wiped. But this guy's now got to go to another timeline that's kind of like his timeline to live his life with people who he kind of knows, but not really, with memories that don't really matter anymore. Like, that's not satisfying at all, I don't think. And also, They didn't even tell us what's going to end up happening when he runs into his alternate timeline version of himself there. You know, the other future Trunks. Like, it's a nightmare. It's a horrible ending, and it was, you know, I get what they were going for, but like you said, it was like they were trying to tell us this sad story for Trunks, but it's okay, we can be happy too. Just very strange, confusing ending, and that's why I said the ending was confusing, not because I didn't understand it, but because it was just strange. Like, and it was also very rushed as well. Like, I do agree there was some cool stuff in there, but the execution was just like they didn't know. Like, one hand isn't even what the other hand's doing. It was very weird.
Yeah, it was all over the place. Honestly, before I saw the actual ending to this arc, I was thinking, okay, maybe this arc is still better than the Majin Buu arc, or at least the climax of it is. And then we get, honestly, a far more convoluted and ridiculous ending than even the Majin Buu arc had. So overall, I can't even say that. So the ending is definitely the one thing that really soured this arc for me and really might have ruined the entire arc for me as a whole, even though I really enjoyed a lot of the concepts along the way, as we said in the other video, which you could check out after this video is over on Geekdom 101, in which it is the 10 things we did like about this arc. But the ending for me really, I feel like, almost ruined the entire arc, and it really just dampened my entire enjoyment for this entire arc as a whole.
Yeah, And it makes you wonder if they're going to keep doing endings like that, because it was just very anticlimactic and just, I mean, not everything has to have a happy ending. Toriyama tends to have happier endings, but it's like that we're not sure what message they're trying to give to us. It was very strange.
Yeah, absolutely. So let us know your own thoughts down below in the comments section about the 10 things that you didn't like, and maybe even the 10 things you did like. But also, after you're done with this video and after you leave that comment, make sure to go over, and you can check it out in the description and in the end card, to check out the 10 things we did like on Big D's channel, and you're really gonna enjoy that. I'm certain of that. So let us know your own thoughts down below. Don't forget to check out and subscribe to Big D when you're done with that video, because he's got some great content over on his channel. And as I always say, stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
The Omni King destroys the Omniverse, but I can do that just by flexing my biceps and triceps.
Yeah, 2% of my power.